Hi, I'm back yet again. Hello? Hello, hi? Anyways, hi, welcome to the video. If you're new here, this video, I've been wanting to do this for a long time. And I just need to get a lot of things off my chest, even if only 2 people watch it. And those 2 people are just me clicking on the video twice to get 2 views. The US, the United States, the third world country with a Gucci bag. I didn't think it could get so much worse than it already was. But politics in the United States are going downhill so quick and down a path that history has seen before. And the thing I'm referring to is Germany. Germany's history. Now, while I was in the United States, a lot of people seem to have this idea that what happened to Germany in the 1930s and the 40s could only happen to Germany. It was just a German phenomenon. And it was just this ideal that America would never even consider, be able to go down that road. And I was always perplexed by that. I was always confused as how you can be so sure that it won't happen to your country, or to think that it's an isolated event that could never happen anywhere else. I hate to break news to these people, but things like that happen all over the world, and we are always under constant threat of it devolving into that situation again. Now, what I wanted to talk about in particular today is the situation in the United States among conservatives, and how the dialogue has just devolved even further beyond my belief. And this is not accidental. This is not just a couple mistakes, honest mistakes. No. A large think tank company has been pouring, and a lot of different types of conservative groups like Moms of Liberty have been pouring so much time, effort, millions of dollars into demonizing and dehumanizing trans people. What else have you heard from conservatives? Have you heard their stance on economic policies? Where's the traditional fiscal conservatism? No, the only thing that they seem to care about right now is trans people. Just take a look at all the bills trying to be passed in almost every state. Anti-trans bills that basically, in and of itself, are unconstitutional, but are getting passed. Now, of course, they can't just say, these people are bad, we need to get rid of them, right? They need to first go through the steps. And we've already been through the first couple of steps. And there's the same thing, keep in mind, that happened in 1930s Germany with the rise of the Nazi Party. Words are very, very important. And the ones we choose, especially during public events and speeches, even more so. I don't think it's a mistake that Michael Knowles, at a CPAC event, which is basically where Republicans and all conservatives come to meet up, that he says on live national television in front of a huge audience, quote, "We need to eradicate transgenderism from public life entirely." Eradicate was the word he chose. This exact wording, this exact type of dehumanization of a certain community of people in speeches, that's where it starts. First, it was questioning, should trans people be able to go in which bathroom, right? That's where it started. Now, where the fuck are we now? We're at public speeches, where conservative pundits, which, by the way, I think it's interesting that all conservative pundits with talk show hosts were failed Hollywood actors that basically also did gay scenes and stuff. That's interesting, but the ones who hate the most are that themselves. I am just astounded at how fast and how blind people seem to be to this type of problem. That someone says eradicate You wanna, if you can't see the problem right now, just change the words that he used just to a different group of people. Would you think if someone stood on a stage and said, we need to eradicate Christianity from public life, is that something that people would be okay with? And the thing he did there too was not just say these people, he grouped them up together and said it's a type of ideology. Because it's easier to hate an ideology and to dehumanize people into things that aren't humans to get ready for the next step. And they're already there, passing bills trying to cut Medicare. It's already a thing that in the United States, it's hard to have good healthcare. And if you are even privileged enough to have enough money for those types of surgeries or gather enough money for years and go through all of the fucking bureaucracy around trying to get gender affirming surgery or care, it's already hard enough as it is. But they want to outright ban it. And I think in some states they already have. Slowly taking away the rights of a certain group of people. That sounds familiar. First, it's healthcare. Then gun nuts like Marjorie Taylor Greene, which she dedicates her entire political career to bootlicking the NRA. But when it comes to transgender people, she wants to take away their guns. Suddenly, she's anti-gun, but only for one group of people. I wonder why. I think it's very interesting that the fact that 99%, and that's not even an exaggeration, 99% of shootings and mass shootings were committed by mostly white men, white, straight men, that are no doubt Christian. But you know what? When they do it, it's prayers. It's thoughts and prayers, right? And they're not considered terrorists because they're white. But the moment they find out the last shooting, it was someone who was transgender, or someone who was identifying as transgender, they revel, jump at the opportunity. This one instance where they can use one person of a group to demonize the rest of them. They don't even need to have that person, but they jumped at that opportunity. Suddenly all their thoughts and prayers went away. What lovely Christian neighborly love. If you have any knowledge of how Germany got into its situation, into its horrible genocide, the first steps were the speeches talking about what the problem is with the country and blaming all of the country's problems on a certain group of people. First, it was just the speeches. Then, slowly in the speeches, you start seeing the language shift from considering them as humans to rats, to basically anything other than a human. Dehumanizing. Then what was the next step? Slowly taking away their rights, making them identifiable, taking them away from important jobs that hold some political power or some sort of influential power, like lawyers, anything in the state, doctors. And we all know what the last step is. And I don't buy it for a second that Republicans or conservatives in the United States that are pushing this type of idea do not want that. There are literal Nazis, actual neo-Nazis, supporting you when you go protest. I'm talking to you conservatives. And by the way, I absolutely hate this excuse. The whole thing with let's protect the kids, this shit ain't new. There was a whole fucking campaign in the 1980s by this one woman who literally wanted to protect the kids from the gays. It was the same argument used when queers wanted the right to marry. Protect the kids. They'll turn gay. That's not how this works. And can I ask you a question? If you're conservative or someone who's more moderate listening to this or watching this, who's more of a threat? The person reading you a story in a library with a wig on? Or the horde of white men outside with AK-47s, Nazi flags, and saluting Hitler? I'll give you some time to answer that question. It shouldn't be a hard question, but it seems like a lot of the American public is being pushed to that ideology or somehow convinced by that. Companies like Fox News, which is an entertainment company, not a news company, they absolutely push the shit out of these stories. Every podcast I can even think of someone who is conservative is talking about this. They're pushing it down your throats so hard because they know that it's the only thing they can do to get people somewhat interested in their party. They make up problems that don't exist. They make up situations that haven't happened. Or if it has happened, it happened once. And then they say that's the commonplace, while ignoring the multitude of abuse on the other side. It's not about abuse, it's about power. This is about power, and they want as much of it as they can get. Take a look at Florida, for example. Governor DeSantis banning books from libraries and schools that have anything to do with African Americans, have anything to do with queer people at all. They mentioned Rosa Parks in the book, that's it, banned. Rosa Parks was now edited to death. Before, in US history books, I think Rosa Parks wasn't even described or her story wasn't well put together anyways. But now they've absolutely edited the shit out of it. First, in the textbooks, it said Rosa Parks, she was forced because at that time, segregation laws, all African Americans were forced to sit in the back of the bus and give up their seats in the front for white people. But now, you can't mention the word white. You can't mention the word black. They just say Rosa Parks was brave. She sat in the front of the bus. Someone asked her to go in the back of the bus, and she said no. Completely taking the systematic problem from the time, and that still continues to this day, out of the equation. Why? Is it because they want to protect the kids? No. They want to protect themselves. They know that if the African American community, if the minorities, if people of color and queers have just as much right as white people, white Christian people, they know they're getting voted out of office. So they have to use any means necessary to gerrymander their way out of it, to pass laws where the governor directly controls or wants to control who teaches what and what teacher is allowed to teach what. Going for education institutions was also one of the first steps of the Nazis. I have seen where conservatives try to come up with rumors that lesbians don't support trans people, which has been debunked by another survey, or trying to fracture the LGBTQ community, trying to prop up groups that say, yeah, we're good with gays and lesbians, but not trans people. To all of those who actively believe in that type of situation, yes, I'm talking about people like Blair White, who actively talks to people like Alex Jones, interviews them, and has a great time with him, agreeing with the examples he brings up of somehow someone of non-existent examples. In case anyone is watching this who is gay and has those feelings towards trans people in our own community, I want to tell you this. I want to spoil the fun for you just a bit. No matter how much bootlicking you do to the conservatives, no matter how many times they say, oh, I hate trans people, but you're the exception, it will not save you in the end. These people are not ready for compromise. They're here for a certain goal. Whether they like to admit it on national TV or not. And to another group, to those who would say, I'm moderate, I'm in between, I'm a centrist, who I feel like have this undue sense of superiority because they feel like I'm not extreme. I don't like either side. I'm special. 90% of the time, I would say those people are woefully ignorant and just choose to not look at the problems. They don't have to confront it in their day-to-day lives. Or, I like to set up this thing for you. If you have one group on one side saying, we want to take away these people's rights, want to make it unbearable for them to live, I want them to slowly kill themselves off, knowingly. And the other side says, we want equal rights. We want everyone to be able to have access to the same things and live a nice life. Something that says something that is stated in U.S. documents: the pursuit of happiness for everyone, no matter if they're Christian, Muslim, Jewish, or LGBTQ, straight, doesn't matter. And you actively see these two sides and say, you know what? I am in the middle. What is the middle? Where's the compromise between that? We take away some rights from some people? Doesn't sound just to me. Doesn't sound like someone who's done their homework to me. For me, it just sounds like laziness. Not being confronted with the problem, or having the luxury of not having to think about the problem, especially for those who aren't in the LGBTQ community, that aren't faced with that. Of course, it shouldn't have to be our job. It shouldn't have to be our job to teach other people basic human decency, and it's aggravating. But we shouldn't have to put up with it. And we can't let it get to a situation where it gets even worse. We need to do a complete U-turn. All I can say is if this hatred keeps on being perpetuated, if these groups of people that first hate African American people, hate Jewish people, hate LGBTQ people, hate drag queens, all of that hate, when they are done with all of that hate, who's next? What's next for them? Hatred leads to one thing: destruction. But it also helps. Fear, hatred, disgust especially, is a very powerful tool. And once people get a group of people that are dehumanized, that are compared to rats, that are compared to things that provoke a disgust response from humans, you're playing with fire. And that fire just might burn the entire house down. I will put a Google Docs document in this video with a lot of trans organizations you can donate to, or if you don't have the money, to at least sign petitions in local governments to stop this madness. Any little bit helps. And even if I just maybe convince 2 people, I think that's better than nothing. And I cannot, for the life of me, just stand here on the side and just do nothing. If you made it to the end of the video, thank you for watching this entire video. I know it's hard to watch it, it's a hard topic, but it's one that must be talked about. And while I like to make content that is a little bit more lighthearted, a little bit more comedic, I didn't feel like it was appropriate for this video. And you'll definitely get some more videos in the future where it's a little bit more lighthearted, but this was necessary for me to do. For me to feel like I at least put a little bit of effort to try to do everything I can to stop this from happening.